Today I'm talking about the fact that I'm grateful for all of the shit that I've been through. Now, in one of the videos that I'm going to upload alongside this one, talking about everything that I've learned with PTSD and trauma and stuff, it's like a 30-minute video. But at the end of it, I just kind of say, like, to conclude it all, that I'm grateful for all the stuff that I've went through. And that includes, obviously, like, the bad shit. So, a concept that I've made videos about, like some videos, like quite unpopular videos on my main channel, like some of the older ones, was being grateful for your insecurities and also being grateful for having like subpar genetics. And the example I always give is, think about when you were in high school and you had like sports class. In the UK we call it PE. You're getting changed next to all the boys and everyone's got like somewhat like, you know, everybody's different and everybody's unique and shit, but like there's that one motherfucker, a couple of guys who are like lean and like jacked in teenage sense, you know, like they've got like bicep veins, shoulder, a six-pack and everything, like they look good. And like that guy didn't really go to the gym, he didn't lift weights, he just had like awesome genetics. You'd at that point you'd feel grateful if you were him. Like we all wanted to be the guy who already had a six-pack without having to work hard, and the diet was never that good or anything. And I was skinny fat during this time, but now the thing is, I'm not specifically thinking of, like, I'm not like trying to roast anyone who, when I'm talking about this, right? Any like lean guy who was in high school or anything. But the thing is, I'm more muscular than like anyone that I went to like school with, right? I think I would know if there was someone else who like really got into the gym or anything. What's very interesting is the guy who really started off with like that best body fell off the game. He didn't have to work for the body, so eventually when, you know, he was celebrating it and he was getting girls and he was drinking and stuff, like he lost it. The same with a person who starts off like really like facially attractive. When you don't have to work for it, then they lose it. The same with money. Okay, let's this is a very like common realistic example. What happens to the kids who are like born into money? Like they get like rich daddy's trust fund or something. A lot of them, like every now and then, some of them still stay a success, but a lot of them blow that shit because they didn't have to work for it. When you don't have to work to get that like great asset in your life, you don't know how to maintain it past the long term. So whilst all of us little fucking incels are like looking at these guys who are like, you know, really attractive or rich or something when they're young, a lot of them fumbled that bag, they fumbled that asset. Whereas when you put in 5 years, 10 years into building your dream body, like you're not going to fumble that shit. You'll miss a couple of workouts every now and then, but you're not going to fumble that shit. You have to work hard for this shit. The same with money. The same with everything, with genetics. And even the same with things that are like horribly bad. Like I am so grateful that I went through that shit in my childhood. That I got fucking beat, I got strangled, I went through some shit. Like childhood abuse. I've got CPTSD. Like I don't just, this fucking line I like saying, like I don't just have PTSD, bro. Like I've got complex PTSD. I'm self-diagnosed and like someone's gonna, oh, but you haven't went to it. Fuck you. I'm not going to a doctor. Like shut the fuck up, bro. Go to a doctor and get fucking antidepressants. Fuck you, dumbass. But and I'm grateful for that shit because I could be sat here like, woe is me. And thinking like, oh, you know, I've been through so much, so like, life's hard. Another idea, like another example that just came to mind is like, I have very flat feet. So flat feet is like a medical condition, it's like genetics or something, where your feet have like arches in them. And if you have flat feet, it affects the rest of your life in a very negative way. It makes your balance really shit. You're quite like heavy-footed in no matter what you do. So something like boxing, martial arts, a lot of sports is somewhat off the table. You get like, it's not just your arch, like your arch collapses. And just that little change in your foot changes literally the rest of your entire body. All the way up to like your fucking sinus, and you're more likely to get a blocked nose because of this bullshit. You've got a slightly like fucked up spine, your legs cave inwards, yeah, and you get like knee valgus. And that makes exercises like squats and everything like dangerous. Like my knees click every time I bend them and everything. Your hips are out of place. You get lower back pain. And like your whole life gets kind of messed up just because of the fact that you don't have like the arc in your foot. I could have been sat there and thinking, oh, like, you know, genetically, like I'm not destined to be a martial artist or a runner. I'm not supposed to be doing any of that shit. So I could have stayed here for the rest of my life because of that excuse of like, but something bad happened to me genetically. And yet here I am. I still squat. I'm getting close to 3-plate squat. still in martial arts, kickboxing. I can run a 10K. And the same thing with experiencing like complex fucking PTSD, experiencing childhood abuse. The worst thing that could possibly happen is like years of fucking aggression, mental, physical torture in a sense, just being stuck inside a home that you don't feel safe of. To this day, it affects pretty much everything that I do. My fight or flight hormone, like a response, is almost always on. The cortisol hormone is like being rushed through my fucking veins a lot more than it should be, because I'm always in a state of fucking survival. And I'm grateful for it. Because I could have had an easy life like some people. And if you have an easy life, you don't get into self-improvement because it's just good enough. I'm grateful for the fact that I actually got a bad degree. Like I graduated with a psychology degree, but I got such a bad result in this degree, at the lowest grade you can get to like pass, that like the degree essentially was useless, completely useless, because no one's gonna see like I just about got the degree and be like, oh my god, he's just about got the degree, we'll employ him. So after I got the shitty degree and I was applying for jobs, I could only get shit jobs, and I got a shitty full-time customer service complaints department job, and I'm grateful for it, because it was down here, because it was so bad. Because you know what, if that job was 25% better, you would have never seen me on YouTube. If it was good enough, if I got paid, like my salary, like my yearly salary was 17,000, which is fucking nothing, bro. £17,000, right? If it was 22, 25, yeah, honestly, about 22, maybe a little bit more, something around that level, I would have stayed. It would have been quite a comfortable level for me to like get an apartment and get a nice apartment, get a car on finance and stuff. It would have been good enough. And so I would have settled, and like I would have been that fucking guy who's literally just working. Like, no offense to those people and stuff, I always say this because like and every time I like disrespect that job, the job was trash, but like the people there were like fucking sound. Like I remember it was like a temporary job, like through a separate agency, and another girl was in the same like job role as me next to me, like we were doing the same tasks, and she had been employed through the same like temporary agency, and like she was nothing but like just so friendly. Like she literally like became like a friend of mine, so nice, like not like dating or anything at all, literally just like we were just friends and stuff. And when I left, it was like such a nice gesture. Like she got me like a big like bag of like I mentioned my favorite chocolates like weeks ago, and she got me like a big bag of these like favorite chocolates that I mentioned like ages. And that was like a really sweet moment, and like I really like respect and like the people who I worked with. But the job was trash. But if it was a little better, if I got paid a little more, if the job was a little better, if for example I was there working the shitty job and I was doing really good, I'm not gonna lie, I was a really hard worker in that job, and like it was all about like how many complaint calls you could take and process them as fast as possible. And her and like every now and then, like the average call like for the entire day, the number was like 50, something like that. By the time I left, it was 100 for me. That's how many calls I was like taking on, because I developed a fucking like framework to go through them fast, like like a step-by-step system and everything, like efficiently moving everyone. It was like impressive. Everyone like stood up like, oh my god, Hamza hit 100 calls today and shit. I was good at the job, and if the managers saw that type of shit and they were like, oh my god, he's good at his job, maybe we should make him into like one of the case handlers, or like one of the other roles, and increase his income, and he'll become like more higher up in the career. Bro, I would have taken the job. And I would have gotten comfortable right there. I'm grateful that I had like the lowest end grunt position. I'm grateful that I got shit grades. If you don't go through this adversity, if you don't experience failures and setbacks, if you don't even start, like let's say at the very start of your genetics and your childhood, if it's great, you're fucked. Honestly, you're fucked. You're fucked a lot more than the guy who starts down here. The only difference really is just your mindset and the level of work and like doing the right things. Best case scenario, like Olympic level scenario, like the best athletes we've ever seen started up here with genetics, and they also went here with like work rate and focus. But the thing is, most people will never do that. That's why you'll see those best athletes, like I don't know, LeBron, I don't know, like athletes, I'm assuming LeBron James, Michael Jordan, they've been at the top for a while. because they have the best, like, fantastic genetics, but also the best mind-blowing work rate. They have the best of both, right? So that's like the person who's like the top 0.00011%, right? But the people who get just below those guys, the people who get into like the NBA level, the people who have to get like Navy SEAL type of shit, like David Goggins, most of them didn't start average to above average, because the people who started at average or above average stay average or above average. It's all the grunts down here who started way below that. The people down here end up killing themselves, getting huge drug addictions, getting homeless, and like doing some fucked up shit, get criminal and stuff. Or they climb. And this is like so heartless to say to someone who doesn't want to put in the work, because they started down here, and they'll use every excuse possible. And I used to be exactly like that. Like, oh, but like I literally used to think this shit, like, I'm brown, girls don't like brown guys, I'm too short, I'm ugly. I literally thought my face was like fucking ugly. And when I started to put in work, I realized that all of these like genetic limitations were actually a benefit, because my face wasn't really that attractive, I found looks maxing. Because I wasn't confident, because I started skinny fat, I found aesthetic bodybuilding. If my face was a little bit more attractive, I wouldn't have had that insecurity, that big push to look at myself, say, you're an ugly fucker. Let's go and Google how to make your face more attractive, because all those guys with an attractive face in my class in like high school, they never YouTube that shit. The guy with a good body doesn't search up how to have a good body on YouTube, and so he never grows. And the thing is, when all you have is your fucking genetics, like these black pillar spurgs think that all you need is genetics, you lose that shit after a while. The guy with the good body and the good face loses it because he doesn't ever get into like the discipline of not drinking like a fucking animal. And so he starts getting like a stupid ass like fucking double chin, and he starts getting like weird spots and everything because he's drinking alcohol and he's sleeping like fucking 5 hours on the weekends. If you're down here, good for you. I'm like proud of you that you started down here. Hopefully, like, chances are you're watching this video, you're not a little bitch, because so many guys start down here and they're like, oh, there's nothing more I can do. Like, what the fuck? I'm telling you right now that the people who get into the top 1 to 10, maybe 20% didn't start there. The only issue is that we see one of the outliers. The outliers are the people with the good genetics who are near the top. The people who started well. The person who, fucking Trump, or like, you know, the person who had rich family, got a lot of money from them, and then he made more money, and everyone's like, oh, like, he started at the higher position, I can't do that shit. Yeah, those people with the great genetics, with the great starting point, if they put in the work and they do the right things, they can end up way up here. But the majority of them don't need to put in that work. Wealth is lost after 2, sometimes 3 generations. Because when like a family member, like someone in your bloodline has made a lot of money and he's become wealthy, like rich, like hundreds of millions, right? There's like tens of millions, whatever it is. That wealth is lost after 2, 3 children. Because one person has, like, he'll have one kid. This kid usually like spends the money or something, but he invests it, whatever. But then he passes on to the next one and next one. By the time of like 3 generations, the wealth is lost. Because those last 2 bloodlines, like the son or the great son or whatever the bullshit, what's that shit called? Grandson, yeah. Great grandson. One of those dumbasses loses it because they were born with it and they never had to work for the discipline to actually understand how to manage their finances. So you want to hear something fucking heartless, which like hopefully you'll accept, where the majority of the world will like crucify me if I say this. You were born in a broke family, good. You were born in a third world country, good. The lower you start, the higher your ceiling is. Fuck. I just like dropped a fucking bomb ass video and then I just stuttered on the end sentence. Shut up, bro. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah.